cool guy. Like, he legitimately like taught me a lot through the process, and it wasn't even like from like a business perspective. It was just from like a life and like like just like professionalism and communication perspective that frankly I find myself communicating a lot like Bob now.
Welcome back to the Unknown Podcast, the only podcast in the world where I invite guests over and we talk about anything and everything to keep you guys in the unknown. My name is David Mechura, and before I introduce my special guest here, I just want to say that this podcast is also on Spotify, so check that out. It's currently not on iTunes. I'm still working on that. I'm actually using Anchor to mass produce my content and distribute it over, but it takes a while to get it onto Apple's iTunes. So I do apologize for that. It will be up shortly, and when it is, I will let you guys know. That being said, we are finally back here for another episode. Sorry for the wait. I know it's been like 2-3 weeks here. I had some issues getting a couple people here to get on the podcast, and so because of that, I wasn't able to upload any. But we do have some guests coming straight here, so I have a lot of guests coming on scheduled, so expect some weekly uploads coming here shortly. Now for today's guest, we have someone that you may recognize from my older projects as well as my older vlogs. He is someone that I worked together with co-hosting a thing called Mech and Heat Show. And so let me introduce to you guys Mohit Patel. Mohit, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, David. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. So really quickly, before we actually move on to what's going on today for the podcast, I just want to let you guys all know that we are going to be focusing all of our time on network marketing and MLM. So specifically Amway and BWW, which is worldwide. We both have been in Amway. That's why we have the products here to show, which Mohit's going to take a cheers for us. And so we are going to...
I opened it the wrong way.
It's as long as you get in, man. As long as you get in. All right. So we are going to be talking about a couple things here, going through our experience with Amway. And again, this is going to be a full podcast dedicated to network marketing. So if anyone out there is watching this and wants to know more about network marketing, here's our experience with it. And you guys can take whatever you guys want from it. So first off, what is network marketing? So I searched this on Wikipedia here. Best way to get information. I really like this definition.
Hey, it got me through high school and college. That's all that matters.
See, I never used Wikipedia because I was so enforced to like not use it because of teachers, but now I do. So, multi-level marketing, also called network marketing or pyramid selling, is a controversial marketing strategy for the sale of products and services where the revenue of the MLM company is derived from a non-salaried workforce selling the company's products, or services, while the earnings of the participants are derived from a pyramid-shaped or binary compensation commission system. An MLM strategy may be illegal pyramid scheme. I like how that's like the finishing sentence. Like, yeah, it might be illegal. So that is the definition. That was a big definition, but basically, do you have a sort of simplified way of define network marketing besides it's a pyramid scheme?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, David, first off, thank you so much for having me. I obviously, for those of you who have watched, most of you probably already know us in person, right? Like, you guys know that David and I have done a lot of stuff together. So I'm happy to obviously continue to be a part of his ever-growing YouTube journey. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of what I'm doing at the end of this. I really, I find that definition very interesting because I spent 9 months in Amway, and we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences later, right? But to see that that's a formal, like a part of the definition that you first see on Google immediately, or on Wikipedia, as David says, which is usually the first result, I find that very interesting. Mostly because how often do you search, a business model or a company up and see that it may be an illegal something as part of its definition? I think that's a very interesting thing, and it's a good reflection of what it's like to be in Amway. And I will, that's where I'm gonna end it. I think everything in that definition was very, very solid. And I can't really speak to more until we actually talk a little bit about our experiences. But David, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, no, I honestly, this definition probably summed it up the best. Both, yeah, I can't talk today, man. This definition honestly summed it up probably the best in terms of just like it is a marketing strategy where you sell products or services and you get revenue for the company that is then you earn it as a non-salaried workforce. So it's a more technical word, but we're gonna dive into what exactly this means because I know I didn't know until I got into network marketing, and we are gonna sort of go step by step and explain exactly how it works, how people make money, and why people think it's a pyramid scheme. But before then, let's actually get into how we got into Amway. And Mohit, do you want to take that off?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting story. So I'll definitely feel free to cut me off. I'm going to tell the brief version of my story. I'm happy to go into a little bit more detail as we continue to move through. And David was actually in Amway before me. He'll talk about his detailed experience. Before that, he quit way before I started it. So I already kind of knew what Amway was, but not really. I never really asked him too much about it up until I was in the vetting process, which was essentially the interview process. And they like to call it the vetting process to make it sound like something fancy. But first off, disclaimer: I realize a lot of this is going to be for people that or whoever is listening or watching this. Whether you're in the vetting process right now, you're trying to figure out whether this is for you, right? And you're watching this video. Or you're already in Amway, you're doubting kind of your time in it, or if you just never heard of network marketing, you're just curious. I think this is going to be very valuable for you. Once again, we don't hold all the answers, right? There are people that have made money within the system, but I think it's very important to listen to different perspectives, and this is mine. So, all right. So as far as joining the Amway system, I started during the essentially the beginning of my my last semester of my senior year of college, right before the pandemic hit. So like January of 2020, what was the last year? 2020. Holy
2020.
crap. January of 2020. Also, boiler up, all my Purdue fam. Love you all. But someone that I knew through a previous internship. I'm not going to use any names. I'm going to try really, really hard not to use any names. Just once again for like more logistical and also legal purposes. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not. Somebody I met within the AT&T internship that I had, who was essentially a full timer while I was an intern there. I got to know him. I talked to him a little bit. I didn't know him too well, right? But he introed me to the platform, right? And I hold nothing against him because when you're an IBO, it's really you get in that mindset of essentially like trying to recruit all of your acquaintances. Um, and some people kind of see that somewhat badly, and like frankly I did at first a little bit too, but over time you really start to realize that look, like just because you're being recruited by someone, it doesn't mean they really think less of you, obviously. Like that is true to an extent, but there are obviously like
Do you want to quickly just explain what IBO is for people that don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And thank you. I was going on a tangent there, so feel free to stop me because there's a lot to this and I really want to talk about a lot of this. But again, for the sake of time, I'm trying to touch on like some of the most important points for you guys cuz we're most people that are essentially being recruited into the Amway system by an existing IBO, which I'll talk about in a second, are going to be our age. So like college students or even high school students, which really really freaking sucks. And people that are frankly just like very new to their careers, or just finishing up college. And I think that everybody has a right to really really understand a little bit more behind the mindset of those who have left the Amway system, because it's very important. IBO, by the way, is just independent business owner. It's the essentially the label that they give you. So Amway really really makes you think that you're a business owner. That's how they market it. It's like start your own business with Amway. You go to Amway.com right now. I think it's .com. And it's like, yeah, start your own business, or become an IBO, an independent business owner. That should have thrown people off immediately because you're essentially an employee. You were not holding your own business. You were not even making money by selling the products. And David, is there a section about the business model later, or should I talk about it now?
Yeah, there. We'll get touched upon it a
Okay,
little
so
bit
I don't
today.
want to talk too much about the business model right now for the sake of time because this is about my experience. But just understand that if anything's marketing that, hey, you're gonna be a business owner, you're gonna make so much money within the next few years. Like there's always a catch. There's always a catch, like in the background, So going back to my story, a buddy of mine that I knew from AT&T, just again, someone I wasn't close with, tried to recruit me. It worked out because back then I didn't know what network marketing was. Otherwise, I would have said no immediately. And hope before you guys, judge right away, don't say no. Like this is just me, sharing my experience. We'll get into what we think at the end in terms of whether you should join a network marketing platform or not. But I saw it through because I was like, damn, this is really cool. I obviously someone that was like really, really still am to an extent hyped up on some of the Grant Cardone, Gary V, just entrepreneurial self development content, right? And in that, being that it was my last semester of college, I already had my full time job lined up. I was in a space where I was really, really, really trying to start something. I wanted to start something because I had a lot of extra time during my last semester, and I was like, look, like this is the perfect time to start a business. And I had a lot of ideas, and obviously, like very, very early on in the year when I was approached about this, hey, would you want to be an independent business owner? The guy was pretty much like, I would love to set up an introduction to essentially my coach, right? And I'd be like, yeah, coaching, mentorship, that's something I really, really want. That's something I need. I've never really had that in my life beyond like coaching for like academic purposes or even just like basic career coaching. I've never had essentially business coaching or life side hustle coaching. So I was very open to it in the moment. So, I sat down, we did a Zoom call with the guy. And immediately, like, I should have seen not so much red flags, but just how much random red tape there was for something that really shouldn't have that much red tape. Like, and you really don't realize this until you become an IBO because you're essentially trying to recruit people the same way. So I was being recruited. I just didn't know it. I thought that this guy was actually legitimately setting up a coaching call between like just to introduce me to his coach so I can get mentored by him, right? And I thought this was just a nice thing that he was doing. I didn't realize that I was being recruited in the moment. So it's a you essentially start a vetting process. So you get on with the coach, right? And I'm gonna call him Bob. Hopefully I remember to use the same names for everybody, but I'm gonna call him Bob, right? Bob, if you're listening to this, again, I mean no ill will, but I'm
Bob the
just saying
Builder.
things like it is. Like what?
Bob the Builder.
Bob the Builder. I'm just saying things like it is. I ultimately really liked Bob. I thought he was a cool guy. Like, he legitimately like taught me a lot through the process, and it wasn't even like from like a business perspective. It was just from like a life and like like just like professionalism and communication perspective that frankly I find myself communicating a lot like Bob now, just talking very similarly. But I sat on with the coaching call with Bob, and then the guy that introduced me, who was frankly very quiet during the call, and we went over some of my goals for the next few years, and just essentially try to uncover alignment between me and then the system. And right from the start, they don't tell you what the system is. You can ask, and they will tell you. They should. But the fact that it was Amway, they very much keep it a secret. Like,
They really do their best to keep it basically say it's something else. They don't use the word Amway until you are further down the process. That's especially how like mine went down. Like even if you asked, these guys would never say Amway. It would be like we help customers and large businesses market
and the
and
reason
stuff like
for
that.
that is because Amway has such a bad reputation. And frankly, it's because all network marketing in general has a bad reputation. We'll get into pyramid scheme
Yeah.
later, I think. But being that I knew nothing about Amway, I knew David was in it, and that's the only thing I knew. I first like again, I just had no idea this was Amway or a network marketing platform. I didn't even know what network marketing was. Like I legitimately thought this was just a coaching opportunity where we were uncovering alignment. I thought this was a guy that just enjoys coaching young people with his free time, right? And he's very selective, and that's what because there are people out there that are legitimately trying to coach people. Like I coach people at school, for example, that I just like doing because I like helping people. So like I guess miss me with the excuse that like, oh yeah, of course they're looking for something, like
Yeah.
no, like there's people out there that yes, they're willing to coach you even if that costs money, but like there are people willing to do it for free because they like to. But anyway, um Yeah, we a couple calls in for the sake of time. I gradually move through the vetting process very quickly. They get you on one of their board meetings that they run every single week, and you get to get some exposure with the team and get to see what they're like. And immediately, like, you start seeing like half of these people look like they've never really been in a business profession, and like even if they are, like, their suits look so old and they just look so raggedy, and it's like there are definitely some very, very smart people in there, but frankly, I think the board meeting step needs to be taken out from their perspective, just because it really wasn't a good impression. But anyway, by the end, near the end of the vetting process, they tell you that it's Amway, and then they go over the system, they go over the pricing structure, or not the pricing structure, yeah, the pricing structure in terms of what you have to pay. And they go over, how essentially the commission structure, the payout structure works, which is on a, if I recall correctly, a PV, like a bonus scale, based on the amount of not only products you buy and sell, but on the people you recruit, right? And frankly, they don't go over this in enough detail to really warrant joining in the first place. But I'm an idiot, and in the moment, I was just so hyped up. I was like, man, this sounds cool. It's a combination of network marketing, affiliate marketing, a couple other different things. They really hype it up. It's network marketing. Like, simple as that. It's network marketing. You can say all you want that it borrows elements from all these different types of business models. In some ways, obviously, it definitely does, but it's network marketing at the end of the day. It's Amway. Everybody who knows what Amway is knows what Amway is. I just unfortunately was one of the people that didn't. And near the end, when I finally got an offer to enter a partnership, I did some research. I finally learned more about network marketing. I finally picked David's brain about it because we never really talked about it, right? Because he quit way before that. Um,
I think I
and
was
I
in like I was quitting or quit just
He
like a
was
little
like
bit,
in
and
the
like you
process
were
of he was in the
yeah
process of ghosting them.
in
Like,
some ways, yeah.
yeah, so I did research, and I saw all the bad things people were saying about Amway, how they take advantage of you, blah blah blah. Like, and I was like, oh man, well, I really like my coach, and I like the guy that introduced me to him, and everything so far has been a solid experience on my end. So I was like, you know what? I told David too. I was like, you know what? I'll just give it a try. A few months, maybe even like a year, and really see where it goes, because I obviously it's not something that's going to make you money right away, but it sounded like a solid plan. You watch some videos from like Patrick Bet David, who has some really good things to say about network marketing, right? He really breaks it down and really explains that network marketing itself is not a bad platform, and I'll talk more about that later. But there was a lot of positives to being in the community, even if it was a little shady and it just didn't really make, like, there were things that I just didn't like, and frankly, a lot of people that turned so many people away. So I joined. I gave it a chance. How much time do I have left?
I would say, yeah, let's keep it there for now. We'll go on to like impressions, experiences a little bit more here, but
Okay.
just for sake keeping times, my stories could be a little bit shorter, just because Mohit may touch basically on everything that goes through that process. I'll just sort of go through how I was found in the recruitment center, because I know we got recruited in totally different, separate ways. Your whole experience was a little bit more online. Mine was more of a physical, because of the pandemic, everything else. Like, I was more in person, you were more online, right?
Yeah.
But I'll say the one thing I did see, I did go on Amway.com, and they do have like a start a business link, and it's like, yeah, be in business for yourself, but never by yourself. And they have, you can watch a video, you can learn how to make money, all this different other stuff.
Just
So
really
like,
think about that. Like, advertising start a business and making it seem like such an easy thing. There's red flags in that immediately. Entrepreneurship is not something that needs to be glorified as something that's easy.
it definitely is. We'll get into that a little bit more later on here. But so how did I get into it? For me, it was interesting. I was actually walking back from DePaul University in Chicago. I had my Grant Cardone 10x hat on. Sadly, I don't have it on today, but a guy came up to me and he's like, "Hey man, is that Grant Cardone 10x?" I was like, "Yeah, it is. What's up?" We started talking a little bit, and we're just discussing things like what you're working on, what are you interested in looking. And I think during that time, I was somewhere in between like real estate, sales. I actually don't remember too much about that time in my life, but it was something in real estate, something like that. So we talked a little bit, and he was like, "That's cool." I'm like, "Yeah, what are you doing?" So I asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm I have a mentor, and we're working on this online platform, and where just marketing, and he just made it sound very vague. I actually don't remember what he said because it was like I asked him 3 times, but it was like something about like mentorship, and they help you, and he's working with a specific coach and mentor that's helping him build an online business, something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. So he was like, hey, like let me see if I can't talk to him and try to get you in. What's your contact info? So we hooked up on LinkedIn. Hooked up. We didn't hook up on Tinder. We like linked
I
up.
think everybody knows what you're talking
We
about.
linked
You're
up on
fine.
LinkedIn. So from there we went to a call. Just a second call we talked a little bit about, hey, like what are you trying to do with your life, goals, aspirations, things like that, which is very common in the process. From there we had one meeting in Starbucks, I believe, sorry, it was McDonald's. It was McDonald's. I do remember that. Where we talked, and they're like, yeah, we have this book. It's Robert Kiyosaki's Network Marketing. I don't remember, 21st Century Business, something
Yeah,
like that. 21st Century. I think you read it as well, right? At some point.
20th century business, or it was something about the 20th. No, I don't think I read
21st,
that.
I think it's 21st Century Business. What I know
It's
for
fine. It's
art,
not that
it's
important.
whatever.
Yeah,
You'll find it. I mean, if
it's
you
one of
search up
Robert's
Robert
biggest
Kiyosaki, yeah.
books. I just don't think I've read that one so far.
Okay, so that was he was like, yeah, read that. Like, how much time do you think you need? We are looking for people that are passionate, blah blah blah. And that's when it was like network marketing. And at that time, I didn't know exactly what network marketing was. A lot of people were talking about it, Grant Cardone and other entrepreneurs. They're like, yeah, I tried network marketing. So I'm like, okay, why not give it a try? Well, I'm not opposed to trying new things, right? So I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I read the book. It sounded really interesting. There was a lot of like key figures and stuff that like I was like, okay, this could be a really cool, interesting business. And from there, that's when we also had the board meeting. That's where they introduced Amway the first time, and that's why I was like, oh, okay, like I've heard of Amway. I've never been in Amway or don't know anything. I just heard of it before as I was doing research on network marketing. We talked a little bit. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. We had our second meeting, then another board plan, and eventually I got on board as well. Again, during this time, it was I was in that phase like Mohit, where it's like business, try to start something new. Always looking for new things to do. I mean, I'm constantly like that, right? If I find something new, I want to try it out. I go for it. We got some firefighters outside,
Yeah,
ambulance.
you might want to cut this out.
Nah, it's fine. I don't think they'll hear it. But if you don't know what we're talking about, there's an ambulance driving by my road. It's snowing, so someone probably crashed. Hopefully they're okay. Moving on. Yeah. So my like I said, it was a very interesting process. I was really hyped up. I was really excited during the time, and it made a lot of sense in some ways. I was like, okay, like this sounds pretty good. We can probably make it work and get it done. So I guess I sort of answered the second question as well, which is sort of first impressions. Now I will say I do want to differentiate this before we keep going on. The group that we're part of is BWW, which is
Yeah,
Brit
yeah.
Worldwide. That is not Amway. So Amway is the company that we use to sell the products and make money. BWW is the training platform that they market as. That's where you have your mentorship, your trainings, your conferences to learn how to sell and be better.
They're
At
all
Amway.
partnered with Amway. I don't.
Yeah.
I really strongly believe that there is some sort of deeper relationship between Amway and BWW, because there's no way that, again, so many of these organizations exist and they're solely divided by the upline. And
Yeah.
again, some of this terminology might not make any sense, and we're happy to go into this a little bit more. Uh, but I just want to throw that in there because I differentiate the education company from the platform all you want, but I strongly do feel like they are the same thing. That's why I always say that I was just with Amway. Like, if you're doing Amway, you're most likely either just selling the products directly, which is not going to make you money, or you're with an education company, which there's BWW, there's like all these other ones. There's so many.
They're very similar in many cases as well. So anything that's you see key points, especially if you've been in Amway and BWW, you see different key points here. But yeah, in some ways they're very tied to Amway. It's not like, oh, we just use Amway because we use it. I believe the founders as well, like they have been with Amway, like they met the CEO of Amway, so it's very intertwined. But for the specific, if you're going into this, just so you know, there is a difference. It's not the same company per se. It's more of like a training and products are two separate. But moving on, we sort of covered our first impressions here. So let's sort of answer first impressions of BWW Amway, and then move on to sort of your experiences with Amway, in general. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's actually do this just so we don't confuse people. Let's actually talk about how Amway works and how you're
Yeah,
supposed to make money.
I
Let's
think
go
that
into
would be the
that.
best way to do this, so no one gets confused when we talk about stuff. Because I'm going to break it down, and I honestly don't think both of us need to touch on this. I think that this is like something we can break down in 5 minutes. When
Yeah.
the way Amway and network marketing works, but I'm going to say it in an Amway sense because there's a lot of companies out there. There's like Herbalife and all these other ones. They all do it very differently. Here's the thing. And we'll go into more of our overall impressions of, again, whether you should join or not near the end. I'm very positive about network marketing. Even though I quit, I walked away with a lot. And, I don't regret my time in the platform. We'll go over experience in a second. But the way it works is it is a pyramid scheme in all sense of the word. They can say it's not. It is. It's a pyramid scheme. Pyramid scheme has just the connotation of the word is really really bad, but like honestly, it's a pyramid scheme. That it is what it is. You make money by the amount of people you've recruited into your organization, by the amount of people they've recruited into their organization, etc. It's really simple. And they if they just say that, I just wish I wish they were a little bit more open about that, because they try to prop it up as something that isn't. I sat down with we're gonna call him Bob again, my coach, and we literally looked at the plan, the bonus, the way that the bonuses work. Which is again how you build your wealth, right? And like it takes time, but yeah, I mean you're recruiting people who then recruit people, and it's just like it is a pyramid scheme in all definition of the words. And frankly, like the people at the top, the uplines, they're called uplines for a reason. That's why there's uplines. That's why there's downlines. It's a pyramid scheme. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think that we're at a point where the word pyramid scheme just means something so bad. Yet people really start associating that with something bad right off the bat. But I just want to be very clear. You were being coached because you're there to create expected return in the long run for your upline, for your coach, who's probably the downline of somebody else, who's getting coached by somebody else, who's getting coached by somebody else. You're a part of the cog. You become part of that. And then you're expected to do the same thing. The money you make is not going to be by selling product. That's just honestly something that you can make a little bit of money on, but it's let me correct the way I said that. You make money by selling the products, but you do it by something called a monthly ditto. And the way that works is you buy a certain amount of product, whether that's for you, like for personal use, and or for customers, people that you have that essentially want to buy product from you, right? Monthly, right? Or just every once in a while. And you just, it works like sales. You're finding people to buy products from you. You're buying products from you. You have your family buying stuff. And if you do it right, it actually goes pretty well. So really, like, try to get that ditto as high as possible, and then you want to recruit people that are doing the same thing. And look, I'm not going to go into all the specifics because we can be here all day talking about how exactly the math works and all that. But the summary is, like, you recruit enough people who are putting in their day one dittos that are extremely high. You're going to make money from that. You're going to make like a certain commission from that, right? Because you've coached those people to essentially do the work. And it makes sense. It's a pyramid scheme. That's what it is. So that's how you make your money. You don't get it just by selling a lot of product to customers. That's where a lot of people get screwed over. And frankly, a lot of people get taken advantage of. And that's where the downside of network marketing comes in, is because there's a lot of organizations out there that do use Amway poorly. That's why there's different educational companies. The education companies are solely there because they do things differently. Every upline does things differently. Our organization, I would say from my experience, is pretty ethical. Like, I mean, we recruit people and essentially have them recruit people, and like we create essentially a closeness in our group, and professional. We focus on professional development. There's a lot that not every organization does. There's little organizations out there that just find other people to sell products to, and unfortunately, that's where network marketing gets a bad rep. So that's what it is in a nutshell. I feel like I'm leaving something out. You see all the products in front of me. These are an example of all the products that we sell in Amway. A lot of them are nutrition oriented. There's also pots and pans, which are crazy expensive. But most of it is nutrition products, meal products. supplements,
Vitamins. Yeah, supplements.
supplements, the vitamins, things like that. And frankly, they're nothing special. Like I'm drinking this energy drink right now. I like the products. I mean, it's not something that I'm crazy about. I don't hate them, but I think that they're definitely a little overpriced. And they can talk all they want about the premiums. There's some really good videos out there that can really break it down for you. And I really encourage people that are existing IBOs to look at the details for some of these products side by side with things that are in the stores, because that's what I did. And some of the details on the Amway website just literally make no sense because they repeat the same piece of information twice. And if I could find an example, I'll send it over to David to post. There's literally like words that they like find synonyms for and then put them right next to each other and like make it sound like something like a feature of a product is more advanced than it actually is. Like they just hype up their products too much. So that's one issue. But the products are fine. They're nothing bad. The products aren't going to do anything bad for you. They're very healthy. They're like anything else you would find in the store. And that's how the business model works. That's the products. Are we forgetting anything?
I'm just gonna back up just a little bit here and go into more of a breakdown. So when you get into Amway, either through a training system or by yourself, you are an IBO, as Mohit mentioned, independent business owner. From there, you have multiple different ways of making money. The first is, yes, you can go out there, you can sell to your customers at both so you get wholesale prices, right? So you get them a little bit cheaper than what you would sell it as a retail price. And they have a recommended retail price where you can sell it at, let's say I get my energy drinks for $20, I can sell it for $25, make a $5 difference here. On top of that, you get PV, which is your is it PV? Right?
Point value and business
there we go.
value.
Yeah. So you get those points. That's how you actually. I'm not gonna go into it, but there's a scale, and that's how you figure out how much of an extra commission you get on top of selling those products. So that's one way to go. Is, as Mohit mentioned, that is a very hard way to get into it. That's a lot earlier trainings, and that's where a lot of people, when they do look at pyramid schemes, it's like, oh, you're pushing products all the time, and that's sort of this. Like, that's how it was. That's how a lot of people associate this stuff with, is like you're constantly pushing products onto people, your neighbors, you're knocking on doors. And so BWW takes it a different way where they want you, and this is how, they obviously word it for to make it sound better, but they basically invite you to get customers and to invite people over to become part of your downline. So all downline is that you're on top and you're sponsoring someone. So every time he makes a sale or he finds someone else, you get extra points for him. You're making extra money. That's where the pyramid scheme comes from. Obviously, you have an upline, which Mohit mentioned, which is just the people above you as well. So I just wanted to clarify that just to make a little more sense here. But again, like Mohit mentioned, those are the biggest ones. You get bonuses. I think there's like 17, 20 different ways of actually making money. But the most common ones do start with selling products or finding people that do your ditto, which is every month they could put maybe $250, $300 down. And that ditto right there is going to be what...
David, when you're done, I need to talk about the cost. There's something serious I want to say. Are you done? That sounded like, that summed it up pretty well. I did just briefly want to touch on
we can move on to experiences and what we sort of
that. I guess this could lead into experiences for sure. Near the end of the process, they clarify the cost with you. It's nothing crazy. I mean, they're right. It is like a cheap way to start a business. It's not really a business though. You're part of the Amway cog, or the BWW cog, whichever you want to say. You're part of the organization. Some people are fine with that, and that kind of goes into why I quit later. I'll talk about it, but the costs are essentially you have to pay to be an IBO. All right, I want you to think about that for a second. You are paying to be a business owner. Like you're paying for a license to be a business owner. It's kind of like getting an LLC, blah blah blah, but like that's different, isn't it? Like, I mean, just think about that, and like the absurdity of even thinking about that is ridiculous. But anyway, I didn't know any better. I'll get into that in a second because we are moving into experiences. But you have to pay, was it $99 or something like that? Also, by the way, Amway or anyone that was part of the organization that worked with me that's listening to this, why do you have to pay to like renew your annual IBO license to get your bonus statement for taxes, to get your tax statement? That is like a complete ripoff, and that should not be the case. And I've seen a lot of people on Reddit that have been, going under. They quit Amway, and then they, unfortunately, their IBO licenses expired, and now they can't get access to their bonus statement for taxes. and like they would have to pay for the license again. Just to get access to it, it's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm sure you can call customer support and they'll do some craziness and they'll say that, oh yeah, now you can access it because they probably don't want lawsuits and things like that. But you shouldn't even have to call. That's ridiculous. Anyway, I just wanted to say that just to give you guys an idea of what type of company you're really working with here.
As you can see, he was trying to do his taxes.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I didn't make that many like crazy bonuses or anything, so I really don't care. But I just think it's important to recognize that a company that doesn't want to openly share something like that without you paying for them is just a little ridiculous. You have to pay for that. You have to pay for a BWW, essentially streaming fee, where you're encouraged to listen to curated podcasts, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, podcasts every single day through their system, and it's literally not even like podcasts. Like you can find podcasts for free, better ones on Apple Music Apple and Spotify and things like that. These are literal BWW speakers from some of the conventions that they hold, which they also make you pay for, by the way, every quarter. And then there's monthly ones, and then there's weekly ones. These are recorded segments that they just transfer into podcast form, and frankly the platform looks like shit. Audio also really sucks, and the speakers don't even say anything that's like is added no value. If it's adding value to you, if you're listening to this, you're an IBO, it's adding value to you, I'm so happy for you. But look, like I feel like I'm pretty successful so far, and I'm only 22, and like I've got no value from the BWW podcast, so I stopped paying for it. What else do you pay for?
Well, we said the monthly cost, right?
Yeah, you got your IBO fee, you got that. Oh, and then obviously your Ditto, which is what I just talked about. Your monthly orders. You're encouraged to create a personal volume for yourself, and that includes things. Maybe if your family member wants something, etc. I know my mom wanted some of those supplements near the end of my time in Amway. So really things like that. Just getting an order ready that you can put in every month. I think my highest was a $400 Ditto that really kind of screwed over my finances for a little bit. Because you really feel the pressure, because that's how the business is. You want to, if you're remotely a good person, and you're getting coached by somebody in the system, if you really believe in it, you want to create incentive for your coach to continue coaching you, and that's why I put in a high Ditto, even though I didn't want to at that point, because my goal is paying off debt. Like I did it solely because I was in the organization for so long not doing a Ditto that I kind of felt like I had to, and that's just it really hurt my finances. That being said, that's the biggest expense, hands down, is your monthly product order. So those are the major expenses you had to deal with. Again, there's your convention costs, which are what, like $100 or a little bit more. Honestly,
than that.
Depends. What's funny is when the pandemic started, all of these conventions went online, and they should be no more than like $20-$30 for access, or honestly free because they're on Zoom. They still make you pay the $100. There's no reason to do that. That was milking your money. I paid for the first one. I got no value from the conference because it literally sounded like every BWW podcast I've ever listened to. And then I didn't pay for the second one. I told Bob, I was like, look, like this is something I don't feel comfortable paying for. So getting on to my experience, David, let me know how much time I have left so I can really think about.
I'm going to just jump in really quick here for the conferences wise.
Yeah.
I actually experienced it in person. I was to, I think, 2 or 3
I went to one right before the pandemic, and that was solely because they needed me to get around the team before I can actually join the system.
Was that the quarter one?
I think it was the monthly one.
Okay, yeah.
Right, yeah, it was at the hotel. That was
yeah. So yeah, there was that, and then there's the bigger conferences where you have, thousands of people come together in one spot. Those very expensive. I think the tickets, were 100, 150, 160. Plus, you got to pay for your hotels, which are for different states have different. There's like 3 events going on in different areas, like the Midwest, East, and West Coast, and so it would be either 2 or 3 days, and it would be all day long. We'd start somewhere at 9-10 a.m. and go until 2 or 3 in the morning. It was.
David, what hard. I want to ask you is, because in the corporate world, this is fine because it's like you're at the conference and then you go out drinking. Was this like you were at the conference all day? Like you guys didn't even go drink, from what I remember.
No,
you guys didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. which
No,
is
this was
I think
from
is a little ridiculous.
this was from literally the morning. You would have the first half of the conference, then they would have like maybe around like 1 or 2. There would be a lunch break. Sorry, we have distractions in the background. There will be a lunch break for an hour or two, which for us in our upline, they wanted to meet in their hotel and have another conversation and talk. Which at that point, you've been up. So the worst experience I'll give you guys one story and then we can continue on really quickly. Was in Baltimore. That was I flew by myself. My parents were out of town on vacation, and my uncle was driving me to the airport. I got like 2 hours of sleep, if even that, maybe an hour. I flew in there, got maybe another hour of sleep, and this was the first. It was a Friday, so it was like the first half was literally just afternoon to evening, and from there it'd be the whole day for the next day or two. And it was terrible. I mean, the amount of energy drinks you gotta drink just to stay awake and listen to, because you're listening to the same thing over and over again. And honestly, it came to that point where it's like people are so hyped up, and that's the whole goal of these conferences, is to get you hyped up and like cheering. And it's like, oh, if you're not awake and fully motivated at 2 in the morning when you've been sitting in your seat for the past 15 hours in a suit when it's hot and you just want to like relax, that's what I did not personally like, was the fact that like, okay, like at some point the knowledge is just passing through me. I'm just literally staring forward, falling asleep, trying not to fall asleep so I don't look bad for my upline. But it was brutal, and I was just like, dude, I can't do this. I want like actually experience Baltimore, and then like if I try for the 2 hours that you actually have a break to like de-wine, they want you to let's go food here, and we'll talk and we'll have a conversation. I'm like, dude, like I want to like at least have like 2 or 3 hours to like explore and have fun and like see the city and just de-wine, and then not get out, start at like, I think it started like 5 or 6 and go until like 2 in the morning. And they would start with, so each one would start off with actually a DJ, and they were like DJ and you would dance, which was it was pretty cool. It was pretty fun, but like at the same time, like I just want go in the conference, have and get it over with. But it was very, 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 very long. Nothing was open. I was hungry. And I'll finish this with one last thing too. Sunday would always have like a Sunday church session. So it would be like Catholic. They had like Christian, like all different religions. They had different sessions, and it felt like you were sort of pressured. They didn't really force you to go to those, but it felt like you were pressured to like attend one of them. I did for my last conference that I went to attend it. And personally, like I'm not very religious as a person, so I am Catholic, but I'm not very religious. I don't go to church as much. So for me, it was a very, it felt like they were pushing religion too. It just felt like at the end they were like, oh, if you guys believe in religion and stuff, like yeah, like if you guys want us to like add you to the group and stuff, like come and join us, like come up stage and we'll celebrate. And I was like, I didn't obviously do it, but it just felt like they're pressuring me to become more religious, and I was like, it's not for me. So that was just my experience with the conference as like a in-person thing. It was exhausting, man. There was no drinking. Like no one drinks. That's the thing. They're like they pride themselves on no alcohol, and you just learn.
Yeah, David, are you pretty much done?
I am.
Can
Yeah,
I take it? Okay.
Yeah.
So as you know, when I first heard David's story about the conference, that was when I was brand new to the system, and I gave David a lot of crap. I remember, just because like I was so hyped up, back then. Like I really thought like, oh yeah, like.
And that's their goal. Their goal is to hype you up.
I was like, and that's what I want to touch on. I was like, maybe this is how this business needs to be run. I gotta be so hyped up, like, I can't complain. If I complain, then I'm not a good IBO. I'm not doing this right. Blah blah blah. And that's what I really prided myself on. I was someone that was like much like David, very open, trying to try this out to its fullest extent. So this way, if I quit, I know that I put all my all into it, and I still didn't like it. So, hearing David's story initially, I was like, oh, maybe he just didn't experience it the right way. Maybe it just, maybe, I'll have a different experience, though I've never been to one because the pandemic started. Frankly, I've seen some of the videos, and it looks like any other business conference. Like here's the thing. I feel that, frankly, most conferences don't last that long, as long as David's saying. And I totally feel like, because I've gotten this vibe from our weekly board meetings, like these are the type of people that are like, they don't care about your mental health. And, they do to an extent, but ultimately, if you're not it's very, very, very much like an organization where you have to be like 100% passionate. Like you have to be
Fully
fired up,
committed, like no
like
hesitation.
committed about to frankly something that I just think that doesn't have that much value. I All these board plans, all these meetings, all these podcasts, all these even I say conferences because I just don't think there's anything really being taught here. Aren't even like networking events or anything. These are just solely things, and this is why the education company exists in my mind, is to hype people up so much so they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave the organization because in a pyramid scheme, and obviously I've been in Amway. I was there January through September. I quit in September. Um, I've been with them for 9 months. It's not even as long as other people are in it, but I've seen, I face so much negativity day to day. I barely even want to mention that I'm an independent business owner with Amway to anybody in a conversation because they have that much of a bad reputation. Even though our organization, I feel like, was pretty ethical, and it's just you have to deal with that negativity all the time. There's that constant pressure. Even from the moment I joined, there was that pressure of like, man, I kind of want to quit just because I didn't really, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. I just didn't really, I didn't want to face that constant. I felt like I was doing something bad, like I wasn't doing a business properly. Not that there's a proper way to run a business.
I'll
So
jump in there really quickly for just because you mentioned something like the like negative annotation kind of thing of like you know that pressure of like, okay, this is like a pyramid scheme, right? People hear it. I remember you actually asking me when we were talking about Amway in the beginning. You were like, why didn't you like post stuff on Snapchat and like Facebook and social media, right? Like hype this up like you're doing a business, right? And part of that was like because they don't want you to, but
yeah,
secondly, it
yeah.
was just like I was like, yeah, I mean, like it just would give me a bad rep. And I think at that point, like you didn't understand because you were just getting into the business. This was like when you're like, so you didn't understand what I was going through. But I think now you're sort of, if we talk
No,
about
I
it more, it's
understood
like,
after like a month in. Like I literally like asked my coach, "Hey, why can't I post like some stories on Instagram, Snapchat, blah 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 about all this? Like, be like, hey, I'm selling this product, or like, hey, join this system. Like, essentially, there's so many better ways to find candidates, to essentially recruit and then to sell products. And like, he was literally like, all right, just make sure you check in with me before you post. Just pretty much his way of saying like, don't post anything. Like,
yeah,
and like, there's a reason for that. It's just there's so much negative stuff about the platform. We already kind of touched on that. It's like you're constantly feeling the pressure of quitting. Like they need a way to try to get everybody to stay in, and their way of doing that is weekly meetings, weekly meetings, and then along with that, weekly coaching sessions. Like, and I say coaching with quotes because it's all literally just a way to make sure that you have that bond with the team. So this way you're not quitting. And frankly, I feel like that's a downside because like if you have to put that much energy and effort to keeping people in, you're not really focusing on the qualities of the business model that can actually, just you're not really focusing on a way to how can we overturn the image of what Amway is in the public size. Like how can we overturn the image of network marketing? People have made a lot of money with network marketing. My coach has made a lot of money through network marketing. His coach, like my upline, like big upline, he's made a lot of money. Like dude's like he doesn't have to work. Like you can make a lot of money from network marketing. Stay with it long enough. It's really about like it really is about like your passion for the platform. I was not passionate about this through the whole thing. I mean, like literally, like after month one, I realized these meetings are literally the same thing over and over again. Like they don't teach you anything new. I mean, there's the how to build like your PV and all that stuff, which is very simple in my mind. And it's like you're hearing from speakers that frankly like a lot of, you're hearing from like each other, which we shouldn't because we're not really having any success. We're all IBOs that are in this together. We should be hearing from the uplines. Along with this, there are just some things that I want to touch on. I'm very freeform about this. If you have any questions, reach out to us individually. I'm just plug this in there. I will be making a video later with a lot more of a structured approach to talking about my experience with Amway. So right now I'm talking about just whatever comes to mind, and that's specifically because I just want you to like feel what it's like. It felt like a very shady system. Now, the business model is not because a lot of people have made money from it, but I just felt like the culture was something much to David's point about the conferences and stuff like it was not something I wanted to be a part of in the long run. Like it's just like it's either like you're super fired up about the system or you can get out. That's kind of how they treat you.
Yeah.
Like, my coach, Bob, I'm gonna call him Bob. Like, he was very chill about it. Obviously, like I'm sure he even himself has a lot of problems with the system, but he's made so much money out of it that he doesn't want to say anything. He's literally like just a few years older than us. So like that's why I don't hate him, and I gained a lot from him. I just I strongly feel that th- there's this culture just does not care about your mental health. If you share any sort of like resentment against this platform or anything like that, they want to get you on a call immediately to talk through it, and like just really like try to convince you that this system, is, really try to like convince you that it's great, like really try to like showcase why it's set up the way it is. And like it's just like there's such an over need to defend the platform, and that's why all these meetings and stuff exist, to defend the platform, the business model, and like just the culture. But frankly, I have not seen enough tangible results to really care about this system. Outside, like you can tell me all day that this is the best business model in the world, but like I'm a realist. Like I'm not an idiot. Like you know what I mean. Like I just like they literally prey on people who don't know much about the business world and who have low confidence. I even asked my coach when I was like new to like when I was about to like get in like become an IBO. Just finally got my offer. One of my questions for him was like how do you choose who to target? Why do I see so many international students? Why do I see so many people that are students, frankly, with no money, and people of like I didn't say this, but what I wanted to ask is like, why are there so many non-college educated folks in here? Not to say anything like once again
Yeah.
about those that haven't gotten higher education, but like why are there so many people in here that just like don't have like such a great job, or like are like fresh out of college, or like literally like people who are in a spot where they're very vulnerable. Like that's what I wanted to ask, but I didn't phrase it that way, because obviously that's not something you want to say. It makes you look bad, and that's again, I just felt like I couldn't be very open about certain things. My coach literally told me, and this is I should have seen the red flag right away, but again, being very open, like these are things I didn't want to pick up on. He literally told me like we go after people with low confidence. Like, just he's like, they have a lower confidence than you, blah blah blah. And I was like, dude, like that's terrible. Like in my mind, like that's terrible. Like we're recruiting people that just like are like fresh out of college, like just because they don't really have low confidence in my mind. Like they're just in a vulnerable state, and then we go after them. That's what I did not like about the business model. I could not see myself doing that forever. That's how you're going to make money, and it's kind of sucks that it is set up the way it is, because that means now you're not going to be recruiting people that are actually well suited to be in the organization. You may every once in a while, but frankly we're recruiting people that I would never hire if I ran my own business. Like a lot of the people I like saw coming in, I just did not like really understand how they could make it through this vetting process. And that's when I started to realize that people literally recruited everybody, and this vetting process is a joke. It really doesn't filter anybody out, because like you're there to make your upline money. They don't really care who you are or what you do. You should though, because that would create a reputable like organization in the long run. Care less about the money, care more about the people you're bringing in. And that's what I appreciated a little bit about my coach, is that he was a little bit more selective in the people that he brought on, but I felt like there could be even more selection as an organization. I do video editing. I wanted to help at the beginning. I wanted to help with as much as I can, being who I am. Like I was like one of the uplines, one of the coaches. He needed some video editing help. I was like, dude, yeah, I'll help you. I got paid for it. This guy, I'm not gonna name any names. This guy, his wife, like they were both part of the organization. Like they literally did not. They didn't know how to communicate, how to essentially project manage. I felt like I was doing more management for them, to the point where I edited maybe like 2 videos for them in like what, like 3 or 4 weeks or something, because I had a lot of free time. I wanted to edit way more than that, but they just sucked at communication. They sucked at essentially managing how all of this was done. I had to like literally ask them question after question about like how they wanted certain things to be done and things like that, and they had no idea. Like and like I just, again, this could just be because I run my own small YouTube brand, but like I just felt like there was not enough professionalism in there to really warrant me to continue working on the video stuff for them. So those are the type of people that I was dealing with. And like, again, I'm not expecting like a world-class organization. Like, people are people at the end of the day. We make mistakes, but we're in an entrepreneurial community, people who apparently want to continue to self-improve and be better and better and better. But when I turn around, I look at the people on our Zoom calls, and I'm looking at people that literally look like they work at like McDonald's. And like, I'm just like, this is a direct example. Like, people that work at McDonald's who literally don't do anything day to day, and they think Amway is the thing that's going to get them out of it. No, Amway is something cool that you should be doing when you have a lot more money, when your life is settled, like a little bit more. Like, Amway is not the savior that they try to market themselves to be. And that's where I felt so bad. I thought all these people were being taken advantage of. The other thing I want to
say really quickly, it really depends on the organization. Like, we did also have people that
we had a few doctors too.
Yeah. We had people of all levels, but I think it all depends on how you're uplining your organization in the team that you go to, like how they sort of structure and who they want. One thing from just hearing your stories compared to like mine, I feel like your team, or not just your team, but like the groups, all the different groups, like the vetting process that they had was a lot more forgiving than what we had. Like, ours was a lot more strict. That's what we had, a lot more people from our side that would come in that were more educated, that knew what was going on, that actually were passionate about something. But I did see at the same time in that same group other people from other organizations that, we would just come together in one small area for the weekly meetings and stuff. They would bring people that literally came in with like shorts and like a t-shirt, like when they were told to bring a suit.
Before
and,
I forget, along with that, yeah, because that's this. There was one of the meetings I was on, one of the board meetings I was on, one week. Literally, like, one of the candidates came on and was like, I can't. Dude, okay. What's your swear guidelines like? This is not even a swear. This is pretty bad. It's a racial slur, but I don't say this day to day. Like, the candidate literally came out. He's like, "What's up?" It's like, that you don't say that. Not even in a professional community, in public. Like, that's just. These are the types of people that, like, maybe not my coach, but one of the other coaches in our organization was letting become a part of the vetting process. Like, again, red flags from the start.
That's something, yeah, that's definitely not what you want from someone in a professional setting. And that was a big issue too, is like some people just literally came in, and going back to even the point of like, there's so much focus on hype and like literally like hyping you up. Like, you have to be 100% committed. Like, that's all you got to do. You can't think badly, poorly, like no negativity. That's why they have you like constantly reading books, like constantly listening to the podcast. They have you constantly going to those meetings every single time, like talking to your coach. Like, Fridays are your days where you meet up and like have like a Friday meetup, and like
which I think is hilarious, because Fridays are my day. If I ran my own business, I'd love to continue working on Friday, but I'm working Amway. This is practically like being an employee. I do not want to be doing it on a Friday night. So it was like, I just felt like it was an unproductive use of time. It was a weird day to be running meetings.
It was late too. Like, we would go from like 7 to like 11, and I was like, dude, I gotta get home.
Literally, like, these people had nothing better to do with their time. And again, like, if I ran my own thing, having weekly meetings, if this was my business, if I were those uplines, having weekly meetings and just like coaching meetings and all these random meetings that were a huge waste of time, just did not make any sense, because your effort should be on things that are actually creating value, and also like monetary value too, but creating value, right? Your effort should not be on maintaining headcount. That's the huge problem in network marketing. I think that's what David's trying to get at, is all the efforts being put on maintaining headcount, but there's no effort into actual growth and like quality of the candidates within the system. And like, just even seeing that just made me even a little bit more self-aware of like some of my, like, just some of my weaknesses coming into the system, and why I was recruited in the first place, and just made me a little bit more self-aware. And it it really kind of hurt me too, because it was like, man, if they see other people like this, if these are the type of people they go after, like, man, like, I can't believe I fit that description for them, right? And that really forced me to think a little bit. So that's why I like to say this wasn't a terrible experience, because it really made me a lot more self-aware and really forced me to think a little bit more outside of my boundaries for what I wanted to do with my future.
So okay, let's twist for now. We've been talking negative a little bit. Let's turn into like a
Positives.
positive. Like, what do we get out of this? Because obviously, like, communication, like all that stuff. Like, we both had some things we enjoyed as well. So let's get
Yeah.
into that.
So since we were in a pandemic, the way we actually focused on recruiting people was LinkedIn, and just digital media, right? Like texting, LinkedIn, and all that stuff, like hitting up old connections. And I mean, you would do this in real life too, and somewhat to how David was met, or you talk to complete strangers. If you're like in the waiting room, for example, somewhere, you talk to
Talk to
somebody
them.
next to you. You know, you'd really try to seek people out. And have that conversation, then create that connection, and then get them into the vetting process. That's the goal of having those daily conversations. We would do it through LinkedIn and all that. So I would essentially be drafting messages for people I wanted to reach out to. If you're listening to this and you're one of the people I reached out to, I don't apologize, because again, this is it's not a bad thing, and frankly, I caught up with a wide variety of people, which was actually a nice thing about it. Um, but and I grew a little bit closer with the connections I have on LinkedIn, of which half of them I had no idea who they were. So you're encouraged to reach out to people you went to school with, people you worked with, people from high school, especially because those people you don't talk to at all. Just random people, and then obviously strangers too, that just kind of fit a good demographic for who we want to recruit. You would draft messages, and then I'd send those messages to my coach to essentially look over and proofread, and then you'd send them out, and you're growing that skill set. And I really think that helped me a little bit in terms of just concise communication through text, because I that's something I struggled with, and I didn't really get too much exposure in, because I mean, I never really needed to. I don't even like, even emails, for example, in school you don't really care too much about that, but in the corporate world that's very important. It's very important to be concise, and I feel like I learned a lot there, as well as my communication. As much as I still talk a lot, just because I have a very, I guess, like, uh, my fundraising mentality from college, like, I talk a lot and I can fill space no matter what. um I've really learned a lot about more just concise and powerful communication tactics, in just life. Like, the way I communicate now is very different, and because of my experience in Amway, and I feel like I just don't talk the same as I used to. And I know David's picked it up before for me too. Is I'm like, it's been enough time now that, like, he's used to it, but there was a point where my communication just drastically changed. And that's solely just because being around the environment, being around, say, my coach, and then just a couple others within the organization who I actually did look up to a little bit. There were definitely a lot of communication things I picked up on. I think network marketing is a fabulous place to really practice those public speaking skills, especially once the pandemic's over. Once everything goes back to in person, you're encouraged to, if you can, drive out to some of these meetings, and be there in person. And obviously, even if you're not, you're talking on the Zoom meetings, or you're talking in person. Like, there's so many speaking opportunities, and you can hit up your coach, be like, "Hey, I'd love to speak this week." And it's not even for the sake of, like, it's not even a waste. It's not fully a waste of time if you get to speak, because then you get the opportunity to practice your public speaking, which I think was invaluable. So you go from someone that could be like a huge introvert to someone that's very good at speaking, solely because of that community. So I think that was very powerful. I learned a lot on the communication front. Outside of that, I mean, I was happy to grow my network a little bit through the daily habits. I think the daily
So I
habits.
got one question. So how'd you feel? For me personally, like, I know even like just from being here, like, I felt like I could start any business. I felt better about that. Like, did you walk out? I'm just curious. Did you walk out like thinking like, oh, I could be better, I could start a business, or I just know a little bit more, like I feel like I'm more confident in myself and
That's
my
a really good
abilities, or
question, because I'm not gonna lie. Like, when I quit, because they get you into the mentality that Amway is the superior business model. Like, network
yeah.
marketing is the superior business model. If you can't succeed here, then nothing else is worth your time. That's how they make you think. But then you're also in an organization with people who have frankly never even tried half of these other business models, people who have never ever looked at real estate, people who have never even touched the markets or even looked at the markets. Or people who have never started their own thing, and there are people who have other side businesses, because I mean Amway is one of those things that is not going to make you money for years.
Takes a long time.
Yeah, like I got a little depressed when I quit. I quit. Frankly, to be honest, it was interesting because I was at the point where I wanted to quit, and I actually got a good reason to quit at the exact same time. And my coach knows this. Like I had something go on in the family. David, you know what it is too. Just about the same time, and it was just like that was like literally the last thing that just kind of that really got me to quit. Like I stopped doing the habits for about a week until then, and then something just happened within the family, and it hit me pretty hard, and it was just like, this is not the right time to be doing something like this. I just wasn't passionate enough about the community and the business model to continue doing this. The business model was solid, but I had so many problems with the culture and just the way we do things that I could not see myself doing it in the long run. And then the thing that happened in my family around then just was kind of the last straw that really made me reevaluate and be like, hey, this is not a good use of my time. But when I quit, I also kind of started getting a little depressed because I put 9 months into Amway. Like, this is one thing I literally like communicated with my coaches and all these people like every single day. Like, you really feel like you lost out on something in the moment because that's how they make you think. It's not really brainwashing, but it is like you start to. It's kind of like leaving school or like something. Like you really start to like miss being a part of it, even though you really don't.
I
And
think personally, like the hardest part was just you build this sort of, like you said, like a friendship and like a bond with the people that you spend so much time with, and now it's like it's not even about Amway. It's just the fact that, like, and we talked about this too, like you're in a family, like it's like you don't feel like giving up and walking away, but like because you feel like you're letting them down in a sense, right? So
Absolutely. And I have two things I want to touch on very briefly because I'm not sure how we're doing on time, but
I'd
I
say 5 more minutes and then we're gonna start wrapping up a little bit.
okay, definitely. Are we going to be wrapping up with our thoughts as well?
Yeah,
So
we're
just
gonna
so
have
we
an
can leave
overall
people with
overview.
what they should
Yeah,
do if they're okay. So two last things is, first off, like I very much like, I fuck. I know one of the two things, but I need to leave that for a second. What was the first thing? Yes. So two last things for the sake of time. The first one is really just when I first quit and I was depressed. It really, again, thinking that you can't do that, it makes you think that you can't start anything else. Um, and then unfortunately, it affected my performance at my job, and I lost that, and a lot of things kind of just spiraled downhill. And these are things that I can't wait to talk a little bit more about in a little bit more detail soon when my career starts kind of settling down. I started a new job and I'm very, very happy there and thankfully performing much better. And I can't wait to talk about that a little bit more. But I feel like Amway just kind of, doing something I wasn't passionate about really affected my performance at job and even some like friendships too. I felt like I was a little bit more, you know, they really get you thinking that you're better than everybody else in Amway, and that's not true. And by no means is Amway the superior business model. Network marketing is not the superior business model. Like it was, if you just because you don't want to be in network marketing or if you're someone that's thinking about quitting does not mean that you can't succeed in another business. Like frankly, I think you have a higher chance of succeeding in something that you start by yourself versus joining Amway.
yeah.
And
You're
the
more
reason,
you're more passionate about it. I mean,
the reason is because you're passionate about it. I wasn't passionate about Amway at all. The second thing I want to say is yes, though you may think you've built a community with these people, I've seen countless stories online, and then I'll go into my own of how like they just like either get completely ghosted by their uplines and people that they've worked, been around, or like even these people literally like hate text them or drunk text them and like say things that like you should not be saying to someone that quits the organization. For me, there were a couple things.
curtains.
Apologize. Uh, for
Got
me,
noise distractions here.
yeah, no, you're good. For me, there was something very interesting that happened recently. Is the guy that was technically my upline, like my like first upline, that was also being coached by my coach. That I was, it was very confusing structure. Anyway, he like we always used to do coaching calls together. It was me, my coach, and then the other guy. I'm gonna call him like Matt, right? So we got Matt and Bob, and then myself. I felt like we had some camaraderie there. Like, we didn't know each other like perfectly, but after 9 months, like, you would think that like we, really built some sort of connection. I felt that way at least. There was, I told them when I quit that I love to stay in touch, and one of them reached out. Obviously I didn't reach out for a little bit because I had a family issue, and then lost the job because of performance, and there were a lot of things that just happened, and I went in a downward spiral. When things finally started picking up, I had a conversation with, say, Matt once again, right? Um, I was like, look, yeah, I'd love to get back in touch, and I'm not trying to join the organization again. I made that clear. I would love to catch up, and he's like, he literally said, I'm gonna run it by my coach, or in this case, Bob. Right, I'm gonna run it by Bob. I'll see what he says. I'm like, in my mind, I was just like, okay, whatever. But like in my mind, I'm like, do you need permission from your coach to catch up with someone that you literally worked with for 9 months? That just says a lot about your character. And then not only that, he came back to the table like a week later. He's like, "Oh well, I just talked to Bob, and he says that we can go ahead and catch up. Bob, he's not going to be on that call." And I'm like, okay, I feel like I had more of a connection with Bob, right? The coach that I've worked with since the beginning, to catch up with him over this guy. And the fact that he had to get permission to catch up with me was just, it was weird. Like, it was just the weirdest thing I've ever heard. It's even in a professional context. I was just like, dude, like, if you don't want to catch up, don't catch up. Like, you don't need to get permission. You don't need to, and then the coach dude who I thought I had a connection with, like, that was interesting because I looked up to him. I learned a lot, and I really thought there was that legitimate like professional friendship there, right? And like, again, just hearing that was the weirdest thing. I was like, dude, like, this was I'm glad I quit, because these are not the type of people. This is not the type of character of an individual that I would like to work with. Um, but I'm gonna leave it at that because I know we're gonna share final thoughts soon. David, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
if you wanted to add anything, but
I'm just gonna go ahead and sort of talk a little bit about just my not experience, but obviously Mohit, he targeted more LinkedIn online because of COVID and the pandemic. I was still in the phase of like you would literally talk to people in person, like walk up to them. And before that, I'll actually talk really quickly about how BWW does things. So you have A, B, and C list. And I think you had the same thing, right? Same structure, A, B,
yep,
C. So your A list was people that are like your best friends, you know them. B list is people that you somewhat know from high school, you have some kind of connection with, so it's like high school people, stuff like that. And C list is just complete strangers, right? So you would comment and try to connect with A and B listers, but you would also go ahead and try and find new people, which is your C list. For me, that was I had to go into stores and just talk to people, introduce myself, be like, hey, my name's David, blah, 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 start up a conversation, try to get them interested in the conversation, try probe them to see if they're actually like any business orientated, like they're trying to think about themselves or something like trying to do something better with their lives. Personally, I found that to be really helpful in just the having confidence to just go out to people and having a random conversation. So I did appreciate that in that sense of like, okay, I'm not like I'll have a conversation if I sound stupid or dumb or say something dumb. Like it after a couple times of doing that, you don't care anymore. You're just like, okay, like I just said something stupid, but like okay, like that's fine. Like I can go on, brush it off. So self confidence, being able to sort of take that sort of rejection was awesome. I did enjoy that. At the same time, some things that even Mohit keeps touching on, the pressure that you have to like constantly be something and like be someone, and like there was a lot of pressure going on, and you honestly you just it all determined on okay, you have to have like confidence, you have to be able to do this, you have to believe in the system. And I feel like there's such a better way of like how the training could have been organized to help an IBO make money, in the sense of like, okay, like for me it made sense. The money wise of Amway made sense. If I pay $300 for my annual monthly ditto, and then I find 5 people and be like, hey, listen, you pay $300 for your ditto, you buy some stuff, find some people that want to buy it, that's fine. Okay, you find five friends that do that, and now those 5 friends find 5 other friends each to pay $300. it just made sense to me of like, okay, like listen, like eventually you'll start making money once I'm on the top, because obviously you're finding people, and then once they find people, your friends find people, you'll be making money. So I felt like if it was explained in a better way, it would not feel as shady. But like because of how it's like structured, it's like it feels so much more shadier because of like, okay, you got like, you can't tell them exactly what you're doing, and you're in an internet business, and you're a consultant for online huge companies like Apple and Fortune
Just
500.
want to jump into before I forget. I know I talk a lot, but I no, that's absolutely right. Like that's why I feel like I really did not want to continue being a part of this, because why would I want to be working on something with so much of my free time, right? That I could be doing something else with. Like, why would I want to be working on something that I can't talk about too much? Like, that I can't be passionate. They want you to be passionate about it, but not passionate enough to talk to other people about it. Like, that you're not trying to recruit, right? Like, it's so weird. It's just it's hypocritical, honestly.
You sometimes just feel very very shady. Sorry, just making sure something working here. Yeah, it just felt very shady, and just like sometimes it just felt like you're doing like an illegal drug trade. Like in some ways,
Maybe
it's
not
like,
that much, but
well, yeah. I mean, obviously, everything was legal and stuff, and yeah, we didn't sell drugs. Just kidding.
I don't know
But
what was in this excess, but
that was my special
really
blend,
woke me up.
right there. So it just, I don't know. It just felt like I didn't, like you said, you can't talk to anyone about it. Like you just can't just be like, yeah, I'm in network marketing. I've told some people, they're like, oh, you're doing that. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, it has a, there's like, I try explaining it, but it's like you can't really explain when someone has a pyramid scheme in their mind, right? So I don't think it's so much as a scheme as it just gets a bad rep for how people treat it. And there's just so many better ways they could have gone about just making that process and making it easier for you to find people and give them confidence, right? If you start showing people like the positives and downsides, and like focusing on people's objections instead of just being like, oh, don't worry about that, or oh, it's fine, like this is the best system ever, or this is the only business you can ever build, like don't worry about other businesses. Like one good thing that came from that is that I had more confidence in like, okay, I'm gonna go out there. Like that's why I was getting more into YouTube and other things and trying to like really build a brand for myself, because I felt more comfortable. I was reading more books, podcasts. Like I was like, okay, this is really cool. I have a chance here. But at the same time, it just felt like there was so much time committed to things that towards the end I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like it's fine for a starting point, but like when you got 3 times a week, you have meetings and things that are going long term. I had school, I was working, like I had so many other things to focus on. And now, like, you're doing the meeting at the board plan. The board plan's the same thing for the first hour and a half. You're just sitting there just to show that there's people actually in the room, but it's the same speech over and 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 over again. That you could literally, like, besides like each speaker changing up a little bit, like you can literally, I can give that speech back. Like I can
I could have
reciprocate
given a
that.
better speech in half these circumstances. Like,
Yeah,
it's all about mindset. There is no there's like maybe 1 or 2 practical knowledge sessions that are not even taught by the people that are doing it well. Like whenever we have one of the uplines come out to speak, it's like once in a while, and it's apparently like a godsend to have them. Like, we should be so grateful. But
yeah.
like all the other weeks, it's like just like some random Joe, like just talking about, oh yeah, you gotta do this to make money. But yeah, like, you haven't made money. Why are you the one speaking to this concept? Like, I mean, that's great that you're doing it. That's maybe a habit that works, but you should not be speaking about it if you have not created said results. So it's just there's look, like, I appreciate the speaking opportunity, but every time I spoke, I felt that I was bullshitting half the things I was saying, and that's not this isn't school anymore. Like, this is business. Like, this is not you want to be a credible speaker, and there weren't enough credible speakers in the organization that, frankly, it didn't warrant my time. It wasn't worth my time.
I'll say a lot of the speeches too was like motivation, or like how are you reading this book, or like what'd you get out of this, like motivation and information instead of like, okay, how do you find those people, how do you get information, like role play, like let's actually get it to get those people. Like you said, right, it's like I want to know how to make money. I don't care about like being motivated literally 90% of the time, because that's what it was. It's like filler, motivation, and then like here's a tiny bit of information like once a month or something like that. And it's like great, but like even the podcast, some of them for me, like the older ones were pretty informational. They were like okay, I like them, but a lot of them were just people just talking about their life experiences, how they got their program, how they became good in their field or whatever. But like that was it. Like they just talked about the story or like what they are doing now instead of like how did you really build it. It was more like a backstory or like even I think the when you went to the Wisconsin one, I think, right? Or somewhere there for the
The
one of
one
the
I
main.
went to was here. Yeah, it was in
Oh,
Elk Grove.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
So like the first half was like they're like I think it was the building, and the second half was like just like the backstory, right, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That was rough for me. Like I was like, I don't need to hear hours of like how you got here and like not just how you got here, like as in like how you built the system, but like your whole life story. Like I was just like, and everyone was like eating up. I was like, oh my god, like do you hear that? Like this is awesome. I'm like, bro, I've been here for 2.5 hours now. I want to go home. Like I don't need to be here 5 hours straight. Like just like freaking out, being like, oh, this is
It's like
awesome. Yeah,
great. I'm glad you made it, but like, how am I gonna make it?
yeah.
What's in it for me? How can I provide value for the team as a collective rather than just sitting here and listening to no value? That just didn't make any sense to me.
It was, yeah. I think we'll actually you. I'm gonna touch on one thing. You actually decided you sort of talked about why you left at the end.
I figured we what I figured, and correct me if I'm wrong. I figured we'd end it on just recommendations. Whether
Yeah.
you're currently in the vetting process or you're thinking about joining a network marketing organization, just like what we think. So
We're
do
gonna
you
do
want?
that in just one second.
Okay,
I'm just gonna
okay.
give my reason for leaving. I personally left. I mean, honestly, I sort of answered it after a while. The hype died down for me. I was more hyped, I feel, than even maybe Mohit. I think it was because I was in person. Like I felt more like a hype that lasted longer.
Oh yeah, he brought so much product. I mean, everything you see in front of you is still from his Amway days, and
Yeah,
that was
so
almost
like
2 years
I
ago.
was again like when I go into something, I go 110%, right? That's like literally everything I do, every commitment, like I go all in, investing, spend time, like everything. So once that started dying down, I was like, this isn't working. I've been here for like a year or something. Like I'm spending money, it's not going anywhere. And I was just like, honestly, at this point, like I've learned, I've gotten a lot of confidence. I can speak a lot better. I feel more confident going after someone, but enough is enough. But we're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna actually move on to sort of the final overview. Would you not recommend Amway network marketing? And sort of your last sort of thoughts and conclusions. Let's try to keep it about 5 minutes here so we can finish up.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna say it depends, and I'm gonna give you a very concrete explanation of that. So this way, if you're listening, you get an idea depending on where you're at. You hopefully you get some nuggets that really make a little bit of sense for you. If you're someone that's thinking about network marketing or you're in the vetting process right now, you just heard of Amway and you're watching this video because you want to know more about it from an outside perspective, or even if you're with the program but you're very early on, you want to quit. That's what I appreciate about the system, and I'm not sure if every network marketing platform is like this, but you quit whenever you want, which is great. Kind of sucks, but for your uplines, but it is what it is. You get what you put into it, and you can quit whenever you want. I'm gonna say if you already have some strong ideas and frankly the know-how and the confidence to build something of your own, don't join a network marketing platform, specifically Amway. Just don't join it. There's no value you're going to get from it that you haven't already gotten. Um, I just when you join something like Amway, you really want to stay committed for about a year. To really not you're not going to see results, but to really see if you're getting some value out of it, or to get as much value as you can out of it, and then you can decide from there what you want to make of it. And the reason I say that is because if you already have the confidence, and this is why I'm a little hesitant to say that all of the value I got was from the communication aspect. Really, because I've fundraised for 4 years and I've gotten very, very, very good at concise communication, regardless. That Emily was just kind of icing on the cake. I already knew how to communicate very, very well and was very comfortable sparking conversations with strangers. So I was kind of the opposite of David there. So as much as I got more, I guess the value for communication came more from conciseness, not so much confidence for me. Um, So that's why I would recommend Amway. I mean, yeah, like most people aren't confident talking to strangers. Most people need some public speaking help. I still need public speaking help. So I mean, those Amway meetings, especially as things start to go back in person, I mean, all this stuff is very helpful, and you get a lot of professional skills, like networking, etc., that I think are very valuable in any business environment or any environment. Like I just think it's very valuable. Hopefully, you're with a very ethical team, or being recruited by an ethical team. You know, there's a lot of value you can get from it, and I suggest if you don't have any ideas on the table for something you'd like to start of your own, if you're not passionate about anything but you would like to make money on the side, I think this would be a great side hustle to start up. That's why I know Robert Kiyosaki and Patrick Bet David, like all these people have great things to say about network marketing because it can be utilized well. And here's the thing: I strongly believe that network marketing is specifically for people who really just don't want to start anything else. Like people that don't really want to take the time to learn about anything else. They want their business to be something very automated and something that's giving them a lot of passive income in the long run, right? And Amway is pretty much that thing. It's our products aren't anything fancy. They're normal things that you can buy at the store, but that's the thing is I think the less that you care about the products, the less that you care about essentially what you're selling or things like that. Obviously it's an ethical product suite. It's it is what it is. If you don't care so much about that, you don't want to set up a store, you don't want to learn how to do all that. If you're someone that doesn't really like learning, I guess is the best way to phrase it, Amway's probably the environment for you because a lot of things are laid out for you. A lot of things are just kind of just set in stone. It's a system. It's a very automated system that, as much as I feel like can be worked a little bit better, it is perfect for people who don't really want to start anything else, but want a great way to hopefully step away from their job in the future. So network marketing is a business model. It's very solid. It's for a certain type of personality, like I just described. If you're someone that's a go-getter, like look, like you really want to start something outside of this, like you don't want to deal with selling products that you aren't passionate about, wasting your time in a system that's not adding any value to your life. Don't do Amway. Like there's so many other opportunities you have. I really think that you're better off failing at something that you yourself started than doing 9 months in Amway and then quitting and then getting depressed, because the amount you probably gained from something that you started is going to be a lot better. Like you're going to be more passionate about it. You're going to care about what you're doing, and that's going to lead to more success from a professional standpoint, and also from a just like business growth. Like you're going to see a lot more success because you care about it. Versus with Amway, it's like, all right, I got my daily habits done. I'm done for the day. That's not how business should be done, but that's how a lot of IBOs think, because it's you're pretty much an employee. So that's what I would say. I mean, it's half and half. It depends on your personality. It depends on your goals, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Yeah, yeah. I got some
Yeah.
things to plug. I hope David has a segment for that. I'm not going to say
Yeah,
anything now.
actually, after I'll finish it off, I'll let you. I'll give you like 3 minutes. Better hurry. I'll time you. Just kidding. So honestly, Mohit covered really well. I think one thing to really focus on is it really depends on the team you're part of. Like I feel like I had a little bit of a better experience than Mohit in some cases of like just hearing back and forth like what his team was doing, my team. Like maybe it was because of that in person. Like try and touch my hand. Stay away. Just kidding. Um, Late time comedy here. So yeah, I would say it really, if you're lucky with a good team, I think it could be good. I think also you're looking at two people that quit Amway, right? We didn't really make any profits, anything huge. So again, you're taking a more negative, like someone that didn't really make it in a sense, point of view, right? So I just want to point that out as a disclaimer. Obviously, like we're just trying to give you guys as non-biased of a viewpoint that we have. So make your own opinions. Again, think about it. Just know that if you really want to, go for it. Like it's not gonna waste your time. You're still gonna learn something new. But like Mohit said, if you have something that you want to try and start yourself, yes, it's gonna take a lot longer. Amway is perfect for those that want like automatically you're a business. You can have business expenses deductions. You can you have your products to sell. And so if you want to go in this system as like a seller and sell products and you think you have a chance to do that, I've actually on my team had someone that did have that as a person. They made a good $400 or $500 a month just from selling products, not recruiting people, right? So yes, it's possible. You can definitely do it. But again, it's something that it depends on you and how you are looking at your skill sets and what you have. If you have an idea, try to build that idea out first. If you don't, if you just are a really good maybe salesperson type of energy, and you just have people that would
Yeah, I
you know
will
you could
say,
buy,
like, salespeople are, like,
it's a lot
are
easier.
definitely the best because I mean, doing Amway BWW is pretty much you're a recruiter. That's pretty much what you are. You had to be really good at it and good at taking rejection since people can leave whenever. One other thing I want to add is because I've met a lot of people like this. Like some people are totally fine with sitting back. And doing some like minimum daily habits and then seeing like passive income grow. It's still a hard thing to do. Like this is gonna take work. It's gonna take a lot of time out of your day, but like, if I mean, yeah, if you're the type of person that wants to sit back and see that passive income come in, I know I'm not. Then feel free to do it. I really just think that I personally would like to be working towards something. I want to be creating some value, not only to other people but for my life, right? And like ultimately, the passive income I feel like will follow if I'm creating enough success there, versus just doing something I hate for every single day for the rest of my life. It's kind of like having a job. You can get a very well-paying job that you're gonna hate but pays you very well, or you can do something that pays you a little bit less, but you're obviously just more passionate about it, and you're gonna have a happier life.
I think even then, like it's you still have to work so hard to get to that passive level that it's like expect to put in like really 20, 30, 40 hours a week into this guy. Like you're gonna put a lot of work hours into building this into something that eventually you can make it passive and you can like actually live off of this. So it's something that, okay, is my time really worth doing this, or maybe starting something new and really attempting something of my own? Maybe because that's something I'm more passionate about. Yes, there's a higher risk in some shape and form. Obviously, it's a higher cost, and now you're working by yourself. You have no platform or anything to help you off the ground, but it's yours and it's yours to use. So it's up to you to make that choice. And I think I'm gonna leave it at that. So Mohit wants to plug something. Go ahead, and then we're just gonna sort of end off the episode here, unless you have one quick sort of two
That's pretty
cents.
much it. I hoped we helped. The reason I want to plug stuff in is less more to advertise and more just because people might have questions. Network marketing is a hard concept to discuss because there's so much that goes into it. We definitely didn't cover everything. But, yeah, if you guys are in the process, if someone is trying to recruit you right now, if you need help, if you really want to, like, honestly get on a call with one of us, I know I'm very comfortable with that. And David, I'm sure, is as well.
Yeah,
Like, literally just hit us up, LinkedIn, I mean, or any of our social medias and let us know. People do that with jobs sometimes too. But I mean, like, really just hit us up, say, hey, my expertise is mostly limited to Amway, but I'd be happy to just kind of talk through some things and just like learn a little bit more about kind of what your goals are, right? And just I could probably give you a good recommendation because 9 months was a long time, so like I feel like I have a good understanding of the network marketing space, to really be able to just give a little bit of advice on that and just really answer any questions you might have because it's a very uncertain thing. I mean, these people will come out of nowhere and try to recruit you. It's hilarious, but um
very true.
the other thing, yeah, my YouTube channel, David, if you could link that. I
Yeah,
am
everything,
really,
all contact information for both Mohit and myself will be down in the description. So if you want to check out links to like LinkedIn or YouTube or anything, it's gonna be in the
yeah, I
description. So
focus
check
a
that out.
lot on professional personal development content for people that are our age. I'm only 22. I would see myself as someone that's trying really hard to make it every single day, and I'm focusing a lot on my career right now, which is brand new. So I haven't uploaded much recently, and that's because again, my focus is my career. Once I get some things going there and really get things settled in the next couple months, I definitely hope to continue that content stuff because even doing this podcast right now really reminded me of how much I enjoy just providing value. Really creating enough value for people through content. So it's something I'd like to continue over the next couple months. So definitely give me a subscribe. I what else? Oh, my gamer tag supergamer122. If anyone wants
Yeah, if you
to,
just want to play video games, then
I mean, I don't
you
really
know,
play multiplayer, but feel free to give me an ad. What else? That's pretty much it. I don't have many plugs, guys. Like I'm new to the game, but again, I if you're being recruited right now, I feel exactly where you were because I felt so pressured into this that like I didn't even realize. And back then, I didn't even know what network marketing was. So like, there's this pressure to like try to fit in and like what's it called? Just like pander to people that honestly aren't even worth your time. So like, yeah, just hit us up if you have questions. Subscribe. David, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, awesome. Well, he just took over my podcast. So before you subscribe to his channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Hit that subscribe button. Punch that thing in the face. You guys are awesome. Join the Mech family. Then you can join the Patel family, the Mohit family. I'm gonna stop talking here. Mohit's like, shut up. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Mohit summarized it really well here. If there are any questions, seriously, leave a comment down below or check the description for any links or any way to get in contact with us. We're always willing and ready to help you guys with any questions. That being said, hopefully this did help. If it did, if you guys want anything specific to talk on, maybe we can come back and make a list of things that is interesting to you guys. But that being said, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out another episode of the Unknown Podcast. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content coming soon. This time it's going to be coming weekly, every single Monday. If anyone wants to be a guest on the podcast, let me know, and maybe we'll try to get you guys on the show. With that though, take care and have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for tuning in and listening.